Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. So today I'm going to be talking about how to improve your micro or your mechanics in Wild Rift. So basically what micro or mechanics are is just how well you can actually pilot your champion, how good you are at dodging abilities, hitting your own abilities, clicking all of your buttons properly, getting the proper amount of damage off. Basically all of the more specific kind of mechanical things of your champion rather than the macro or decision making, which is usually what we talk about on this channel. So you guys usually don't see me talking much about micro, and the reason is because it's pretty hard to specifically teach someone how to improve their mechanics, because it's a lot of, it's a lot down to things like muscle memory, experience, and practice. So it's a little harder to talk about, but I do want to kind of have a video where I sort of speak to you guys about this and speak to you about how I've improved my own mechanics. So starting off with mechanics, one of the main things that I think is really important for certain champions is to go into practice tool and get used to the feeling of champions. So some champions have combos that are just hard to pull off, and you have to go into practice tool if you really want to master it, because it just gives you a lot more time to actually work on it. A good example of this is Fiora. So Fiora ultimate, right, it's pretty hard to get really good at proccing all 4 of her vitals really quickly on her ultimate. But going into practice tool can make you significantly better at this. Or for me, doing Jace's full combo, definitely something I had to practice in practice tool for hours to really understand how to do it well. And then I would eventually bring that into a game and try to now practice it there. The next thing is really understanding limit testing. So what limit testing basically is going for outplays, going for, plays that you think maybe it's not going to work, maybe it will work, to just try to, dodge that spell that you need to dodge, hit that skill shot, even if it's maybe a hard one. And you're doing this not just to win an individual game, but to practice for the long run. So if you're limit testing a lot, say you go into 20, 30, 40 games in a row and you're just limit testing in all of them, you're trying to really push your limits of your champion, understand exactly what your champion can do, again, focusing on dodging, focusing on these things, you'll get a lot better and build that muscle memory a lot quicker. But if you just go into a game without ever specifically worrying about this, you're probably going to be too focused on the decision making and the macro side of things and not really worried enough about your actual mechanics, and then your mechanics aren't really going to improve if you don't ever put like specific thought into them. So spending some time, just as I tell you guys to spend specific time working on any one concept, whether that's your decision making, your lane management, anything like that, the same thing is true for mechanics, and you need to spend specific time working on them. Alongside that, having a small champion pool makes it easier to work on your mechanics. Because if you're trying to play 20 different champions, it's really hard to actually focus on the specific mechanics of any one champion, because you're going to be working on so many different champions, you're going to get really confused, and it's just a lot to learn. Whereas if you really master a couple champions, you can know their exact mechanics and really understand, I can kill at this angle, I can dodge this spell, and then I'm going to be able to one-shot him, or my champion's damage on these items is really, all of these types of things are really important to understand, and a lot of people just simply don't understand that. And you really just have to play a lot. Like a lot of the things I tell you guys, you don't necessarily have to play a lot to fix them. You can just, you're like, oh, I'm going to start thinking about this more in the game. As long as I, play 10 or 20 games and start building this as a habit, I'll be fine. But when it comes to mechanics, spamming the game a lot is the best way to fix this. So let's say you feel like the real issue with you isn't your decision making, you feel like it is your mechanics. For the first 2 or 3 weeks of the new season, because the new season's in about 2 weeks, just go into every game not really using your brain, trying to fight a lot, and just trying to outplay people. You might lose some games off of it, but in the long run, it's going to be very useful, getting that maximum damage out of your champion, feeling like you really understand your champion's damage, and that your overall mechanics have improved a lot. So that's going to be a really important thing I would recommend doing, just at some point. And it gets frustrating, right? Because you're going to be losing more games off of it, or potentially making more mistakes throwing games. But when you have this specific focus, it just makes it a lot easier. And it's definitely something that I've done at different periods in time. Like when I was first learning Jace, I was like a 44% win rate on Jace for like 200 games. And if you guys don't know, I've been a rank 1 on him multiple times with like 58 to 60% win rate in Sovereign. Plenty of times on him now. So I've clearly mastered him. But initially, I was legitimately just every single lane I would go, I would see if I can level 1 kill someone. Because Jace is a very strong level 1, and so anytime that I had the question, can I kill this guy level 1? I would go and try to kill him. And half the time I would die, and it would make my game extremely difficult. But in the long run now, I know like every matchup really well on Jace. I know exactly when I can all in level 1, who I can't, what spells I need to dodge. I know all of these things, and it's largely because of that limit testing that I did initially, even if, you know, in the short period, you know, it kind of made me lose more games. In the long run, it was definitely a very useful thing to understand. And then there's a couple specific tips I want to give you guys about aiming spells and about animation canceling and what that is. So starting off with aiming spells. So it's a lot easier to aim spells and to land skill shots if the enemy have, you know, they're stuck between something specific. So let's say that you're in lane and you're pushing someone under their turret. If they're under their turret, they can only dodge one way, because if they dodged, you know, the other way, they're going to be stuck in a wall or they're going to be stuck in a turret, right? So it's going to be very hard for them to actually specifically dodge anything. So I'll see if I can kind of skip forward in this replay and give you guys a more specific example once I go to a lane. We'll see if we're able to do that real quick so I can kind of show you guys what I mean. Yeah, we'll see if I can find something. So I think these people will get pushed under the turret here, and then I'll kind of show you what I mean. Obviously, I'm playing Xin Zhao, so it's not necessarily a skill shot, but if we look at where Varus is right now, if Varus dodges to the right, or to the right, like to the wall, he doesn't really have anywhere he can go. Because if he dodges to the wall, you know, there's a wall, right? Like, he can't go there. Whereas if he dodges to the right, he has a lot more space to go to. So basically, when you get someone pushed against a wall like this, and say he was even a bit further, he was completely against the wall, it's really easy to land a skill shot because they're stuck between, you know, they can only move one way. So then what you can usually do as well when you're aiming skill shots is don't aim super far to the right if you expect them to go to the right. Just aim a little bit to their right. So let's say I think that Vladimir is going to juke to the right now. And, well, he's against the wall. So let's say I think he's going to juke to the left. Instead of aiming my skill shot right here where you can see my cursor, I would just aim it right here. Because even if he did move the whole time to the left, I would hit the right part of his body. But if he ended up moving just like a little bit, then I'll still end up hitting him. So it's important to not aim your skill shots by predicting their movement. Just aim slightly to the right or slightly to the left and try pushing them against walls or other terrain, because it also makes it easier to land your skill shots on them. So that's kind of skill shots. And then when it comes to animation canceling. So if you guys don't know what animation canceling is, basically it's using an ability to give yourself a second auto attack quicker, or to get a different ability off quicker, this type of thing. So one example is Xin Zhao's first ability, which I just did right here. So I'm going to try to go back and show you guys again what I mean by that. So look how when I'm on this turret here, I auto attack, I click my first ability, as you can see right here, and then I immediately auto attack again, and it gives me a faster auto. So animation canceling is using a spell to give yourself a faster ability or auto. So I auto attack, first ability, immediately auto attack. Xin Zhao can do this with his first ability, and a lot of different champions can do it. Fiora with her third ability, just plenty of there's a lot of champions who have this. Like Set can do it with, I think it's his first ability or whatever ability. Basically, a lot of champions who have empowered auto attacks can do this. And then you can also do this with some abilities. So one example is Nautilus. So Nautilus, if you use your first ability, you can auto reset with your second ability the same way I just described. And then after that, as your auto attack from your second ability is going off, you immediately click your third ability, and it'll make your auto attack go faster. And it's kind of a timing thing. So these types of timing things with different champions are things you have to specifically get used to depending on your champion. So understanding the animation cancels that your individual champion can do can make you get a lot more damage off and a lot quicker. So these types of things, again, are something you kind of practice and get used to with time. It takes time to kind of improve these, and that's why Practice Tool, again, is a great thing to improve this. So basically, the things I want you guys to understand about improving your mechanics in Wild Rift is that unlike macro or decision making, it's not something that's as teachable, and so you have to spend a lot of time just focusing specifically on that, going into a bunch of games and just playing with those couple champions you want to improve your mechanics on, not focusing on a lot else, and just getting really good at that on a few champions. So it requires a lot of time, a small champion pool, and then a lot of muscle memory, which is just going to be developed from experience. And then the last thing, again, is those auto resets and animation canceling. Well, that's the same thing. Animation canceling, auto resets, kind of the same thing. And then the aiming thing with the trying to get them, you know, specifically against walls, or only aiming slightly to their right or slightly to their left, instead of just aiming, you know, directly in the middle or really far to the left or right. So those are some of the main things to keep in mind. Last thing is, a lot of champions can auto aim abilities when you get close enough to someone. So you have to understand as well at what, how close do I have to be for my skill shot to just be a guaranteed land because I'm close enough and I just auto-aim the ability. And auto-aiming basically just means you tap on the ability and it'll automatically target whoever's closest. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Overall, those are the main things about mechanics and kind of improving your mechanics in Wild Rift. If you guys have any questions on mechanics, definitely, leave them in the comments below. I hope this video was useful for you guys. If you're interested in getting coached or anything like by me, a rank 5 Sovereign autofill player, just DM me on Discord. My Discord's Talon1169, or you could find the link to it in the description below. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.